Hello and welcome. I'm Charlene Smith and I am back with another exclusive interview. I'm very pleased to be joined today by the ex-England manager who gave David Beckham the captaincy of the national team for the first time. He's also the former manager of Leicester City, Hull City, Brighton and Crystal Palace, amongst many others. I'd like to give a very warm welcome to Mr. Peter Taylor. Hello.
Thanks, Charlene. Appreciate the introduction. Very good. Sounds better than what it is.
And I mean, the list of the teams that you've managed goes on. There's many more: Wycombe Wanderers, Gillingham, Enfield, Southend, amongst lots more. But I mean, that would do no justice for the experience and expertise that you bring to every job. How are you today?
No, I'm very good, and I always regard myself as very lucky because as a young boy, I always wanted to play football. That was my only interest. I used to drive my mates and my neighbours mad by going around asking them would they come out and play football, and then to finish or have a career as long as I've had at all different levels, which are really interesting experiences because they're different levels. It's lovely, of course, having the top level because you get the top facilities and the absolute top players. But then there's also others where you get together once or twice a week with rubbish footballs and no equipment to help a player, and so it brings different demands. But I've enjoyed every one of them.
Absolutely, and you've had such a great long time doing it as well. Through your experience, what is it like to manage an England squad?
Well, in my situation, of course, I was the under-21 manager for a long time. I had two different spells, and then I had a spell there with the under-20s. But then all of a sudden, Kevin Keegan resigns, and they're looking for a manager for a short period, and so England asked me would I look after the one game when England played Italy in Turin, and which again, as I said earlier, I was just a young boy looking to try and play football. To then get the opportunity to manage your country is the biggest honour you can have, and for me, I was lucky, not lucky that I only had it for one game, because I would have loved it for longer. But knowing I've only got it for one game, there was no pressure, and all the media knew it was for one game. They knew Sven was going to come in, so I had 5 or 6 days of preparation with the players, and the result didn't matter. Of course, you always want your country to win, but it didn't matter so much. It wasn't a tournament where we had to win, like the pressures of Gareth that has been going through recently. So I knew it was a one game. I made my mind up that it was going to be a slightly younger squad. And as I say, I had 5 and 6 days of absolute fun. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Thankfully for me, the team performed okay, with maybe a referee that wasn't retiring on the night. We'd have got about 3 penalties on the strength of the way the Italians tackled Emil Heskey. But it was a very, very enjoyable night and enjoyable few days. It was a lovely, lovely experience.
You did turn to the youth for that game as well. What was the thinking behind that?
Well, I'd been involved a little bit with Glenn Hoddle, of course, as one of his coaches. So I knew when the team had friendlies and when the team had tournaments. And I knew on the friendlies that the older players, I felt as though could have done with a rest. And I felt as though it was for the England manager to look at different options. And so when Adam Crozier asked me to look after the team, it made up my mind. I said to him, have I got any restrictions here? He said, no, you do what you want to do. So I said, right, I'm going to have a team, a squad that's 30 and younger, which at that time was a younger squad. Now you look at the squad, it's incredible how the age of our squad now. But I just felt that was right. So it, for me, was giving certain players an opportunity. It was giving the experienced ones that the England manager might have needed the next game a rest. So I think that was the opportunity for us to go and play Italy. As I say, it was a newish system that they played that night, and the young players responded well. And as I say, you asked me earlier about managing your country. it's lovely because players are always very proud to play for their country. They're desperate to do well, and so it means they turn up and they do things right, and it's good.
As someone who has managed the England youth setup, are you surprised at the talent that is now coming through, the young talent?
Well, I'm delighted what's coming through because, with, the young squad that just finished the Euros, to me, I don't think Gareth will make too many changes because they're so young, and I think they're then only going to get better for the next tournament. I'm not surprised that we're producing the players because, to be fair to the FA, I think they deserve a lot of credit for this because now all of a sudden there's more organised programs for individuals, of course for football clubs to do right, for the individuals to make sure they get certain amounts of coaching and certain sessions. If you're a defender, if you're a winger, if you're a centre forward, there's all different things now that I think they cover. Where before it used to be a case of, you train for a couple of hours, the coach would talk too much, and the players would just run around playing football. And I think now the balance is right, and I think that there's a set program now that if all of a sudden a young player hasn't had a certain amount of coaching in a certain area, then I think the football club would be told about it.
You are responsible for giving David Beckham the captaincy of England. How does it feel to know that you may have helped start his England saga as a senior figure?
Well, of course, there was 3 players in that squad that day. The squad that I picked, and that was excuse me, Gareth Southgate was one of them. Gary Neville was another. David Beckham was another. And in the end, I went for David Beckham. The more I think about it now, maybe it should have been one of the other 2 because of the experience and the position that they played. I went with David simply because how much people didn't realise how much he always turns up at the matches. He turns up everything he does it right. And he had a really bad year the year before that because of the '98 World Cup where he got sent off and he got a lot of stick from the visiting supporters. So I felt as though he deserved it. And, I thought he would do well as a captain. I never thought he would do as well because he really took everything on board. He wanted to do it correctly. He carried on playing well. A lot of captains, when I was a young player, I took over the captaincy at Crystal Palace and it affected my form. And now when David then got the captaincy, I was slightly nervous for him that he'd want to take too much on board and it would affect his form. But it didn't. He carried on playing well. And if you remember the Greece game at Old Trafford, where he got us to World Cup finals with another one of those great free kicks, I was just so pleased for him. And I'm delighted that he's had the career that he's had. He just really has gone on and on and on and on.
You've also managed at the phenomenon Leicester City as well. What makes this club so special?
Well, I'm glad you've asked that question because Leicester City, that was my first opportunity to manage in the Premier League. And following Martin O'Neill was a very difficult job because Martin was an absolute god at Leicester and he overachieved for them. He done brilliant for them. So it was a difficult job because you take over from somebody so successful. You have to be so careful what you do. And if you do something that's not right, people will just keep reminding you that Martin wouldn't have done that. So it ended up a hard job. But Leicester City now is a very different job than what it was then. What I love about Leicester City now is that you can tell it's a club, you can tell it's an absolute first-class Premiership football club with good management and good players, but that they've also got an owner that, unfortunately, the father died, which was a real massive shame for Leicester City. But the owners have grown and loved the football club. You see lots of owners that buy football clubs for financial reasons only, where you see at Leicester City, the owners have got that football club because they absolutely love the club and they want it to keep improving and improving. So I think there's a real family atmosphere. There was a family atmosphere when I was there, but now there's a family atmosphere where they can go and afford the best players and players that can easily play in their Premier League. When I was at Leicester, it was more of a take a gamble of players out the Championship, where now they are really a top 4 team there in the Premiership. They've got to keep going. They've got to keep their standards right. But they are a very good, well-run football club. Delighted for them.
Yeah, I mean, you see the owners there celebrating with them. Definitely makes a huge difference.
Yeah, no, as I say, you can tell the togetherness, and as soon as they then won something else, okay, when they won the league was incredible. Then all of a sudden now they've won the FA Cup. They've got an excellent manager in Brendan Rodgers. So I can only see them getting stronger and stronger. And then with the financial backup that they've got, if all of a sudden one day an absolute top player became available, they're in the market for him.
Absolutely. Who are the 3 young players that have impressed you the most recently?
Well, again, I've been really lucky. When I took the under-21 job, I've dealt with the absolute best players, people like your Rio Ferdinand, your Frank Lampards and Michael Owens, and all of them. You're just very fortunate to be a part of their careers. I took the under-20 team in 2013. Now, in that squad, believe it or not, was Connor Cody, Sam Johnson, who was also the goalkeeper in the Euros for England. He didn't get on. Ross Barkley, John Stones, and Harry Kane. So they're all young players that all of a sudden in 2013, you don't know what they're going to do. What you're hoping they're going to fulfil their potential, have a great attitude, stay really hungry and do as they should be and live the way they should live, to have a fantastic opportunity. So I must admit, I look at the players that I've recently looked after in the under-20s. John Stones, we all knew what a great lad he was and what a great ability he had. So I'm not surprised he's gone on. Harry Kane, I cannot, but I knew he was going to do well. I knew he was going to be a good centre forward. But the minute he got back from that tournament, he got in Tottenham's first team, carried on scoring, and hasn't looked back. He's been absolutely fantastic. Connor Cody, as I say, Ross Barkley's one I still think will kick on again. But he, as I say, that was an under-20 squad which we didn't do particularly well because we weren't a regular team, and the teams that we were playing, had 30 odd games and all things like that. But there's 5 players there that were in that squad that have carried on, doing their trade marvellously, and hopefully they just carry on. But I think there's also players in that squad that maybe people haven't heard of or haven't seen recently. That just shows you the difference. You've got to keep grafting and grafting and grafting, work hard, never ever take your foot off the pedal.
Especially not in football.
Especially not in football. There's too many good players. There's too many good players around, and the football doesn't owe you a living. You've got to earn it.
Do you think you could whittle them 5 down to 3?
Probably, yeah, probably. But as I say, for Harry Kane, I do have a little chuckle every now and again that I must be an absolute poor manager because he didn't score that many for me. But as soon as he got home for Tottenham, he didn't stop scoring, and I still support Tottenham. So I'm quite pleased he done that. But he has gone on and been amazing. So I know he's got a very big decision ahead of him coming up now, of course.
Do you think he'll make that move?
I think there's a little bit of him that doesn't want to be Alan Shearer. Alan Shearer was the best centre forward that we've had for a long time that didn't win enough. And I think Harry is another one that he doesn't want to finish his career by people just saying, well, you're rich and you're a very, very good player. I think he wants to finish his career probably being rich, but also having some amazing trophies, to show for his hard work. And so in that respect, I think he might go, which would be a big shame for Tottenham, a great opportunity for Harry. If it means it's Man City, I'd love to see the manager, what he can do, if he can do anything different with him. But Harry makes goals and score goals, so that's why you'd pay that amount of money for him. But also for Tottenham, if he does go, then it's up to Tottenham to make sure they invest that money wisely. It doesn't mean they've got to spend it all, but if you get the right players, and it's not an easy decisions to make in the Premier League, because you've got to be some player, and you can spend 40 million on a midfield player that nobody's heard of. So it's it's a gamble for Tottenham. But if Harry wants to go, I think in some ways they should think about him going and invest wisely.
You've managed far and wide. Where would you say is the most unusual place that you've managed at?
Well, I managed in Bahrain, which, I'd had a few clubs in England, been with the England under 21s and also with the seniors. Then all of a sudden I got a phone call one day from somebody that knew the Bahrain FA, said they're looking for a senior manager. Would I be interested? Which I said yes. Didn't know too much about them. Went out there. I took the first training session. There was about 30 odd players there. I wasn't that impressed with the standard of the play in the first training session. And then all of a sudden, 3-4 days later, I went to watch the under 23 Olympic team train. And I was very impressed. So straight away, I let a lot of the senior players go, brought in the under 23s, and never looked back. And to be fair, we won 2 gold medals at 2 tournaments that we played at. The young players kept calling me. I'm trying to think what they kept calling me, but it was I said, "Why do you say that? I was amazing." And I said, "Well, why do you mean that?" And they said, "Because we never would have got an opportunity, because the younger players would never have been put through." And it's the total opposite to what we've done now. Now, all of a sudden, the Bahrain national team now are doing well, and a lot of those young players that were 18, 19 when I was there are doing well and growing and growing. So that's what I loved about football, that to me, I was able to give probably 25 young players an opportunity that they wouldn't have got. And so I'm so pleased. The senior players are probably not very happy with me letting them go, but I think it was the right thing to do. And the modern game, not only you got to be a good player, you got to be a fit, young, hungry player.
That belief in the youth.
Honestly, it was, and people say I'm like that anyway, but I am, but only if it means that there's opportunities and the youth players are good enough, and maybe the senior players are not. They've seen their best kind of thing. So the most important thing as a manager, you got to win a football match. So if it means that you win it with older players or younger players or big players or small players, you've got to make that decision. There's different ways to win a football match, and it's up to the manager to make the right decision.
If we just drift this over to Arsenal, because last season we relied on our youth a lot. I mean, what is your sort of take on how that season went for us?
Difficult season for the manager. Honestly, I'm a Tottenham supporter, but I have supported Arsenal also since '96. Since Arsene Wenger got there, that was when I was so proud to say that I've met him. I used to have a cup of coffee with him in the Sockball House in St Albans, because that's where Arsenal used to get changed at that time, because they were getting things done with their training ground. And so I've always loved the way that Arsenal have played since '96. And I've always took an interest. And Arteta now, I think, is going to be a good manager. It had been a difficult season for him last year. He's another one that doesn't worry about sticking young players in. He probably had to, because he felt as though maybe the older ones weren't doing it enough for him. So he thought, blow them, I'll put the young ones in and give them a chance. I think he's got to get that balance right, simply because how strong the Premier League is. I'm sure he'd love to go and play everybody that's very young, but you just need a few older heads every now and again, especially in a competition as tough as the Premier League. I really do hope they give him a long time, that he can have a bad run and still not affect his position. And I think that's important if you're trying to build something. And I'm looking at him. He knows how to run a football team. He's had great experience working alongside Pep. So to me, that's a good appointment. And I think that he knows the football club. So hopefully they give him plenty of time. And I know they've invested a little bit of money. I know they've got the boy White now from Brighton. So I think they're going to have a better season this year. Whether it's top 4, I don't know. That might still be a bit too early. But please just give him time.
The fans are getting a bit impatient, especially with the pre-season we've had, our captain Aubameyang not scoring. Do you think he's going to feel like Mikel Arteta? Do you think he's going to feel the pressure now that fans are back in the stadium?
Yes, yeah, that will be a big difference. You know, the situation, of course, because of the COVID, where there's not been fans. In some ways, that would have suited a lot of players, you know, because they would have just relaxed, you know, and that would have helped their game. Now, all of a sudden, hopefully, you're going to have a good amount of fans in the crowd, which is going to help the football. There's no doubt about that. But it might put a few players on edge, a touch, but they've got to overcome that, you know, because that's what they're paid to do, and they've got to handle that. And there's no doubt about it. Watching the football, as we've all been doing, where there's been no crowd there, it's been very difficult. I haven't enjoyed watching that. I'm delighted now that you know, fans can give players a bit of stick now. I think that's gonna help our game again.
Based on your experience and knowledge, is the Premier League rightfully the best league in the world?
I think so. That's why, you know, the sponsors don't get it wrong too many times, and that's why the money is available for players now. You know, okay, it's you know, I'm not jealous because you know, if I played in the Premier League, you know, you'd be very, very rich if you just got one season in it. You know, and there's a lot of older players like me that think, oh, I wish I could have been around at that time. I was delighted when I was around and when I was playing, and the type of football that we played. Now it's very different. Now all of a sudden it's a massive, massive game, massive sponsorship, makes the players very rich, but also their lifestyles are a little bit different. You know, it's a little bit well, it's not as open as it maybe it should be because they're so famous. But our Premier League is the best. There's no doubt about it. You know, you look at other football, it's not as exciting. Our bottom team could still beat our top team. Our bottom team will all get behind the ball and park the buses, and it's up to the top teams to have the class and the cleverness to get through them and all that. So no, I think our Premier League is quite rightly so the best league. But most exciting. I know people like Italy and Spain would say a little bit different to that, but I think end-to-end stuff, 90 minutes of football, ours is amazing. And maybe that's a time where we haven't won tournaments at times because our players have given absolutely everything during the season, and they've played more matches than other teams in other countries. But without a doubt, honestly, if I was a sponsor, my money would go into the Premier League as well because that's more excitement. Everybody's trying to score a goal, and it's great stuff.
Which three managers have impressed you the most in the Premier League or the Championship? And give us the reasons why as well.
Well, the manager, Pep Guardiola, that won the league last year, again, what I like about him, he's top of my list. What I like about him is that he also will change a little bit. That if all of a sudden it's 10 minutes to go and people all say, oh, he plays perfect football. No, he doesn't. If it means that he's got to get the ball forward to a centre forward to get up the field a little bit sharpish, he will do that. And so to me, he was adjusting to the Premier League. I think that maybe at Barcelona he wouldn't have done that, but I think that in the Premier League, I think he adjusts. I think at times he will go long as well as players their outstanding football. He'll definitely do that. So I think he changes, and I think that he's got his way of getting certain people forward. Very classy, very, very classy manager. I'm a big fan of Frank Lampard. So when he lost his job at Chelsea, I was really gutted for him. And so I probably weren't going to give the new manager a chance because I had the ump. But I've got to say, for him to come to Chelsea and beat Man City 3 times, I thought was outstanding, you know. And so I would have said this before last night's result, that he got he's got a way about him. The players seem to really like playing for him. He definitely knows how to stop a team playing because that's what he done against Man City. Whether he relies on the players then to do their bits and pieces when they get the ball, I haven't seen the difference in that. But he certainly knows how to stop a team playing and not allow them to have the freedom and get confidence. One manager I think deserves a lot of credit from last season is David Moyes, because I live in Southend. I live in an area that supports Tottenham and West Ham and of course Southend. And a lot of West Ham supporters weren't sure about David, and everybody that I saw that I knew that they would ask me about him. I said, look, you've got a great manager here, and he will adjust to whatever's needed in the Premier League. I've known David a long time when he was at Preston and I was at Gillingham. And I've got to say, for him to go and do what he done at West Ham, where people were talking about him getting into Europe, was absolutely outstanding. And I think he just explained to the players that they weren't covering enough grass, they weren't running around enough, so they wasn't doing it right. And I think they all bought into that. So he turned them into a good team. They were a counter-attacking team away from home, and they done exceptionally well. And so I think David, we're always great. I've named two of them that to applaud the foreign managers. But I don't think we applaud enough what we've got as well. And we've got enough very, very talented coaches and managers in our country.
Yeah, when you look at David Moyes, I mean, everyone was expecting West Ham to get relegated, and the way he just turned it all around.
Yeah, and again, it wasn't a case of, spending more money than others. It wasn't a case of that. The people above David they're very tight on the money, or they make sure it's got to be money well spent. So they would be checking on why you're after that amount of money for that player, and which quite rightly so. I understand that. If I was a director spending money, I'd want to know why you want this on that. But no, again, all of a sudden from relegation, all of a sudden it started talking about Europe. And so I think David's a great manager. He's got really good staff there with him as well.
When you look at Man City and the squad that they've got, I mean, they've got two strong squads. Do you think they've got enough to do it again this season?
Again, after winning it last season, it's going to be an even bigger test, because as all managers do, all clubs now, they now look, right, how can we do it? What do they not like? Why did Chelsea beat them 3 times? So there's going to be so much. And it also means their players have got to have the same desire. They've got to have that hunger to want to go and do it again. Year before, of course, Liverpool had that. And the minute you drop your standards and the minute you think it's not going to go for you, then all of a sudden then you don't win a match and you draw a match and then you lose a match, and that's why then you're lagging behind in the table. So it's going to be another big test. But I must admit, looking at their squad, I'm really a little bit, I suppose, impatient now to see what the manager does with Jack Grealish, because Gareth Southgate had an outstanding Euro for me, but I wanted Grealish to play more, and I was one that kept saying I want him to play. So I'm hopeful that he's going to play a lot for Man City. I'm going to be seeing the actual positions that he gets him to play in, what he asks him to do defensively. I'm really looking forward to that as well, because Jack Grealish, there's no doubt about it, he's all about end products. When he gets the ball, 9 times out of 10, he's going to cross it on somebody's head and they're going to score, or he's going to score himself, or he's going to get brought down and get a free kick or a penalty. So he's all about end product. So that's why they've spent that amount of money on him.
Imagine adding Harry Kane to that as well.
Well, I'm sure that's what teams will be panicking on, because, but then also, the other target there, or the other hard job there for the manager, is to handle those players. Imagine you've got Sterling, you've got Grealish, you've got Kane, you've got Foden when he gets fit, who's going to be an absolute star. And they've got, if anything, Man City, because of Aguero going, they needed to improve on that. Now, Man City, if they go and get Harry Kane, they've really improved the main area that they've had to improve on. Apart from that, they've got most things. I still want to see them have a regular left centre half, a left-footed centre half. I know they've got the boy Aki, but whether he's good enough to go and take them forward, I'm not sure. And another left-footed left back, I think they need. So, but it must be fun taking them training every morning. Let's put it that way.
Who are the two biggest talents that you've nurtured at club or international level?
Well, again, I'd go back to the England days with people like Frank Lampard. Honestly, he was a very determined character, Frank, and the way that he was a very knowledgeable player, and the times he used to get in the box at the right times was his lungs, but also his knowledge. People like Rio Ferdinand, people like Michael Owen, and Emil Heskey, and I had them because they were in the under-21s, and I had them because they were desperate to get into the seniors. So they done things right, Again, Kieran Dyer was one. If Kieran had not got the injuries that he had as a young player, I felt as though Kieran was going to go on. He was terrific. I had him at 17 playing left wing back in a back five system, and he was a young lad just coming through Ipswich's system, and I thought he was different class. I really thought he was different class, and so I'm very fortunate enough to, if I hopefully see these people down the high street one day, they'll come across and say hello, because they know that you've had a little bit of a part of their career and what careers they've had.
Can England win the next World Cup, and give us the reasons why?
Yes, they can. And people said this to me before the Euros. I said, look, with a little bit of luck, you go and win the first match in a tournament, it always helps you, which we did. And then all of a sudden it goes on from there. Everybody needs that little bit of luck. But we've certainly got the talent. We've certainly now getting the experience of tournaments where players are there a certain time and sticking together and creating a family and the club atmosphere. So we are definitely getting there. And I think Gareth is learning every tournament, every match. And he's not too big that he's thinking, I don't need to be told certain things. I'm sure his staff, remind him of certain things that he will then get better and better. His players know how close it is now for us to go and win a tournament. Of course, the next one's going to be really, really hot in Qatar or whatever. So that's going to be very, very different. But again, if our age of our squad stays the way it is, I think that, we are fitter now when we go into tournaments than we was before. I thought we were slightly older squads that were a touch tired. But now I think we're fitter. Now, fitter with good ability, which we've got. And if we've then got a star centre forward and a star goalkeeper and a star centre half, which, we've got players now that will get in any country. So who knows, but you've always got to have that bit of luck. You've always got to have your best players available. We've had other tournaments where, Wayne Rooney's got injured just before we've gone out there, and little David Beckham at times. So little things like that is when it's gone against you.
And what would you say is next for Peter Taylor? Can we expect to see you managing in the UK soon?
Well, it's funny. I must have upset a few down the line because my phone doesn't ring as many times as I would like for something that I'd like to do. If it meant it was a number one job, it's something that I would consider, but it doesn't have to be. I'm 68 years of age now. I'm still pretty fit. I've been to the gym this morning. I still do lots and lots of walking and try to, I suppose, look after my weight so you look the part. And if you then have to go and take a training session, you don't look ridiculous. But if it meant that there was a younger manager out there that would love an older head in the building for 2 or 3 days a week, I'd love that situation as well. But I must admit, it's a little bit frustrating that I'm not doing something, because I still feel as though I could help a club, I could help a team, I could help a young manager. So you never know, that phone might ring one day. I still love the coaching, I still love the training. I took a group in Southend quite recently, and that was good fun. So I don't want to not do that. Hopefully that I'll get the opportunity to do that again.
Yeah, and we're excited to see what's next for you as well. So fingers crossed your phone rings soon.
Hopefully, Diane. Thanks very much.
Oh, well, thank you so much for your time today, Peter. It's been so nice speaking to you.
Yeah, we finally got there.
I know.
I'm all zoomed up. And if I can help you on anything, please let me know.
Oh, likewise as well. And thank you to everyone watching. We hope that you've enjoyed today's interview. If you've got any feedback, then please leave it in the comments below. I'll be back with more guests and more interviews, so make sure you stay tuned. It's goodbye for now.